Welcome back, everyone. So, this week we are switching gears slightly and we're going to talk about value debates. Now, there's not a lot of new information for us to cover. We talked about the three types of debates and their stock issues already, but we'll go back and review that information. And I will give you sort of the expectations for your assignment that will be for this week. So, on Blackboard, I have already posted the assignment details. So, this goes a little bit further than what is available to you in the course pack and the syllabus. So, at first, before we look at the position name resolution, hang on for just a minute. Understand that you're going to be paired up, which you see down there. Someone's going to be affirmative, someone's going to be negative. The affirmative side will support and agree with the resolution or the topic. The negative side will disagree with and fight against the resolution or the topic. And you're going to want to hit all of the stock issues and make your case for why you think that you are right. Now, remember, as with everything in the class, there are no outside sources that are to be used here. Let me get where I can see myself and this. And so, for that, you're just going to want to use these common sense arguments, things that are general knowledge to most people. Other than that, though, it's going to be a recorded presentation. So this is not like the correspondence debate. By the way, all those grades are now entered, and everybody did a fine job on that again. There were some areas where some folks, most everyone, could make some improvements, and so I pointed those out. But A's and B's across the board. Now, with this, you're going to record yourself giving a presentation. There's not a hard time limit with this, so don't feel like you have to get it all in as quickly as possible. Although you probably shouldn't need more than 5 to 10 minutes at most, but it will really depend on you. There's not a hard limit. And remember, because maybe you make a 3 minute video and your opponent makes a 10-minute video, that doesn't mean that one's better than the other, but it does mean that there's a lot more content probably to come back and rebut when you go to the next stage, which will be the following week. I do want to point out two things. One, on that same note, this is the constructive assignment. So what that means is that each of you on the pairings are going to record yourself either supporting, affirmative, or disagreeing with the negative, the resolution, and you're going to post that. And your assignment for the following week will be for you to watch your opponent's video and then make a response video that addresses all of their arguments and also restates your own and why you think you are correct. Now, the other thing to point out is that when you make this video, this is what you will do. This is in the syllabus and it's right here. But you're going to want to save the video, upload it to either YouTube or your Google Drive through your email, and then get a shareable link that is able to be viewed by anyone with that link, and then post the link. Do not post the video file, a .mov or a .mp4. Just don't post those. Just post the link to where I can go, your partner can go, and watch those videos. So let's talk a little bit more, just briefly, about a review of value debates. So in the course pack, we talked about value debates being about arguing what's good, bad, right or wrong, better, worse, maybe moral, immoral, should not do something. Now, I want to make it clear that in some of these, I have put things like the United States should ban cigarette sales, is one, for example. Realize that that's not a policy debate. I don't want you to tell me how we should ban it and give me sort of this, here's the problem, here's the solution, here's the cost benefit analysis. That's definitely a policy setup. For this, I want you to really think about, is that the right thing to do? What will it improve? What will be some downsides of either position? And that's what I want you to focus on. That also leads us to the stock issues, and you see those here for value debates. You're going to want to define things. So the USA should ban sales of cigarettes. Now, I worded these in a way that are hopefully very clear and there's not a lot of wiggle room. So if you wanted to, you could say the definitions that I will work with are those common knowledge from what was said. Sometimes if something says, this house thinks that apples are better than oranges, then you could say that this house is, whatever Grand Valley students thinks that approves of apples, meaning Honeycrisp apples, are better than oranges, oranges meaning out of season oranges from Florida. Like people can go crazy like that and really take it in a whole new direction. We don't need to do that. Let's just stick with what the definitions seem to be. But if you want to clarify anything, go ahead and do that. Then tell us about the field or the state of the field of study in which you're situating the debate. So, you could do this in multiple fields. So if you wanted to talk about banning cigarettes, I don't want to give that completely away. Let's say if we talked about banning alcohol sales, then you could talk about, okay, here I'm looking at this from a health point of view. I'm looking at this from a societal point of view. I'm looking at this from whatever point of view you want to. And again, you can use multiple points of view. Then you've got application or proof of your value position. Now, don't let the word proof throw you off. This doesn't mean like, and this is, I'm right because you know that this has happened before, though that can work, but it's just simply showing that it's a better idea to do or not do something than the opposite. And you're going to try to show us why and give us examples of that. That was one thing from the correspondence debates that I just graded that I would recommend most everyone add would be examples that support the position. And so that's what you're going to really want to do here with this proof of your value position. And then last but not least, there should be a quick discussion of hierarchies, and that you don't have to use that language, but it's talking about if one thing improves, but another thing gets worse. Maybe that's health versus money, or that is freedom versus appropriateness. I don't know. Then you need to make the argument that it's worth the trade off. Okay. That's what we're talking about with hierarchy. So, what issues matter most? Well, maybe health matters more than money, or money matters more than health, or we value freedom more than we value social acceptance or political correctness, or maybe it's the other way around. I don't know. And so that's what you will argue. Now, jumping back over for just a moment to this list, you'll see your name over here, and then you'll see your topic or resolution right there. We have an odd number, so I am lucky Marie. I am going up against Marie and the bottom there. So I'll be the negative in terms of it is a good idea to ban plastic water bottles in the United States. And so with that one, I would argue that it is not a good idea to ban plastic water bottles. Seems like that'd be the tougher position to take. You're welcome, Marie. And so what I want to do now is walk you through how I would come up with this. So this will be, for Marie, this will be your video that you're going to use to rebut next week. But right now, you just need to make your own. Everyone needs to make their own without worrying about what the other side will say. Because in this assignment, there won't be any rebuttals of arguments that have been made. Now, you may remember that we talked about refutation and that you can do that sort of preemptively. So it might be a good idea to say, I know what my opponent may say, and they may say this, or that, and here's why I think they're wrong, but let's focus on the construction of an argument instead of the deconstruction of an opposing argument, even if that's implied. Whoops. So let me jump over and grab, I'll do a new Word document. Whoops. Okay. So if I were making my speech, which I am, so banning plastic water bottles is a bad idea. That's my position. Now I'm going to go ahead and go through my stock issues. So definition is first. Definitions. I think it's just what it looks like. Banning means making illegal to sell. I'm going to say that. That's going to be important in just a minute. I'll show you. I've just got an idea that I just had there. Let me go back so we can all look at the stock issues together. Field, application, and hierarchy. Remember those. So if field, I will look at this in terms of the, better not. Let's do money and health is how I will do that. The next one, application or proof. Application for basically by the field. So for money, it will be, it's a huge industry. And for health, it's sanitary and easily distributed. Okay, and then hierarchies, I will value money as equal to the environment and health as more valuable than the environment. So that's where my mind is going as I make this. Now, there's no right or wrong way that you do this at this point, because again, this isn't what you're going to turn in. You're not going to turn in anything written. This is all going to be you discussing, the position that you're taking. Now, in our course pack, there is strange this outline. This says Monroe's motivated sequence outline, but one thing that you can be sure of is that this will work for any debate. I think I've mentioned that in the previous video. And so I'll show you how you can do that here. So for an attention getter, if you remember when we talked about persuasion, we can use a statistic, but we would have to cite that. So let's use a story, and I'm going to talk about a personalized story. So I'm going to give people names. I don't know. Harry was homeless. Who I'm looking around? Dana. I got a picture of people. Dana was a social worker. Wanted to help. Gave water. Now, that might be all I need in order to make that story make sense. But if you're not that experienced with creating stories and using them in this way, write your story all the way out. Again, you're not turning anything in. You just want to make sure that your story has the most impact. Here, Carl, and it's a bad idea to ban plastic water bottles. You should, by the end of this speech, you should agree that banning plastic water bottles is a bad idea. Thesis statement, I'm going to come back to that. I like to do that at the end. Why do you care about this topic? Well, let's give two reasons. One, we all use or have used plastic water bottles. And two, plastic water bottles will impact our future. Let's say for better or worse. Review of main points. If we could go back over here, we could talk about, I think I would just make the arguments. Now, this is sort of a guide, but I'm going to go over here and I'm going to talk about health. And I will then talk about, I did money first. I'm actually going to do, let's do money first. If you've got one point that you think is stronger than another, go ahead and put it last. Then I'll take out main point 3. We don't have to have 3. money and health, and now I can talk about money and the comparison. I might talk about it's a huge industry. Um, People buy these every day. It's convenient. Oops. Or whatever that word is. Convenient. I would talk about jobs. We talk about, let's do making the bottle, filling the bottle, that's good enough there. We take that guy out. We don't need any sources, remember, we can take this out for here. Now that, there's a nice little transition, we know about the financial importance of plastic water bottles. So let's address the health concerns, or let's do health issues surrounding plastic water bottles. So here we can just say we're going to do discussion of health. Don't know why that went highlighted, but whatever. So here, let's say maybe sanitary, right? So they're sealed, and we trust them. And then also with health, I think we could talk about quick distribution. And so that could be in emergency situations. That could also be to help those in need. I'll explain all this as I go through my examples. And that's good enough for that one. And really, let's just take all this out. And after hearing this speech, you should agree that it is a bad idea to ban plastic water bottles. Come back to the thesis. We talked about two main points being money and health. And then we could do closure. We'll finish the story. Now, a couple things that we want to go back and make sure that we're doing. First, it's the thesis statement. Don't overthink this. Do not overthink this. Plastic water bottles do more good than harm. That's all I'm going to say. That's it. Then down here, clearly, plastic water bottles do more good than harm. Don't try to get creative and make it two different thesis statements. There's only one sentence in a thesis statement, and it can be exactly the same. Should be exactly the same. When we flip back over here, we'll notice that we want to talk about how we value these sorts of things. So I'm going to go back in and make sure that I include that. So let's say that we do division C value. Then we can just put it in here. Money equal to environment. And then I'll make that case as we go. And then division C here. And health, as more valuable, than the environment. Okay. So that's that. Now, let me go through and just give you this speech briefly so that you can see how this will just flow if you let it. Okay? So don't overthink this, please. I want to begin today by telling, let me just time myself. That's annoying. Dun, 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 dun. Stopwatch, here we go. I want to begin today by telling you a story about a man named Harry. Harry was down on his luck and homeless. During the COVID recession, he found himself out of a job, out of a relationship, and out of a home. Dana was a social worker who was overworked. They both were in the Detroit area. Dana's job was 9 to 5. She worked in an office where she received tons of calls for people that needed help. But after work, she would go out and wanted to give more. And so she would go to where the homeless people hung out and would take them supplies and try to get them to a shelter. Well, one day she ran into Harry and she asked Harry, if I could do anything for you right now, what would you ask me for? And Harry's response was simple: a drink of water. Hi, my name's Carl, and today I want to tell you why it's a bad idea to ban plastic water bottles. By the end of this speech, you should agree that banning plastic water bottles is not a good move. Plastic water bottles do more good than harm. You should care about this because we've all used or used plastic water bottles, and love them or hate them, they're going to impact our future for better or worse. Now, I want to focus on two areas: money, finance, and the health of the human beings that live in our country. So, to begin, let's talk about money and the impact that the water bottle industry has on our economy. First of all, the plastic water bottle industry is huge. Think about how many plastic water bottles are purchased every single day, how many are on the shelves in every single store, how many you see around campus or your job or wherever it may be. I mean, there are countless water bottles out there. Now, why are they everywhere? Well, because they're convenient, mainly. I mean, we just really love convenience in this country, and I'm not arguing that that is good or bad. What I'm arguing is that if we ban plastic water bottles, we're going to also cut many jobs. Think about it. If there are that many bottles produced, think of all the jobs that must be lost if we ban plastic water bottles. I mean, it's more than just a few or a couple of plants. I mean, think about the process of making the bottles. You have to have this whole chain of supplies that come in to the factory where they make bottles, which there are many of those. And then there's also the idea that we fill the bottles. Well, the water just doesn't get to the filling stations automatically. You know, that's pumped from various locations. There's the purification process that has to happen. The idea here that I want you to understand is that there is a lot of people power that goes into making plastic water bottles and providing them to the public. I do not mean to say that money is more important than our environment, because let's be honest, plastic water bottles are not good for our environment in any way. However, we can clean up our earth, which we should. But if everyone or many people are out of a job because we make this big change, what's really worse, suffering now or suffering later when we're not even going to be here? Again, I get it. The environment is in trouble, but it makes no sense to me to punish those who are just trying to do an honest day's work for the irresponsible folks that just throw their water bottles away and don't recycle them. Now, you know about the financial importance of plastic water bottles, so let's go ahead and talk about health issues. Now, I understand many people would think that plastic water bottles are terrible for our health because of the pollution that I mentioned, but that's just not the entire story. In fact, water bottles are sanitary. I mean, think about it. They are sealed at a factory that is regulated by the government. We have a trust that the water we're drinking is pure if it says it's pure. Some are spring water where they don't get purified, but we know what we're getting in that water. I mean, we have to look no further than the city of Flint, Michigan to see that we can't always trust what comes out of the tap, but we can trust what comes out of the bottle. Not only that, but can you imagine if you wash your dishes in dirty water because you don't know that your tap water is contaminated? Or if someone has touched a glass that you are using at, let's say, a restaurant, and you put your mouth on that glass and they've had their hand on it and maybe they're COVID positive. You don't have to worry about that with a water bottle. That lid that goes where your mouth will touch protects you in more than one way. Also, when we think of health in plastic water bottles, think about how easily we can distribute these water bottles. You know, again, in Flint, when the crisis was really breaking and we saw how bad things were, We saw tons of plastic water bottles being distributed to the people because that's an easy way to send those out. In emergency situations that are natural disasters, we see the same things: hurricanes, tornadoes, you name it. The public is given drinking water in bottles. And really, it helps those people that are in need in a variety of situations. And now, again, the environment is important, but I'm more concerned with the health of our fellow citizens right now than our environment down the road. So that's why we need to really think about health being a big player in why banning plastic water bottles is a bad idea. So after hearing this, you should agree that it's just a bad idea to make this ban. Plastic water bottles do more good than harm. We talked about the financial impact that banning them would have and why they're a benefit to our health in more than one way. Now, let me go back and finish the story about Harry and Dana. Harry asked for a drink of water, and Dana gave him a water bottle. It was a Dasani. She handed it to him, and it changed his life. For in that moment, it was just a plastic water bottle, just a drink of water. But for Harry, it gave him faith in humanity again. He had been down and out for so long in such a bad way that he thought people forgot about him. But when Dana gave him that water and made that wish come true in the instant, he knew that he could try again. Without having that water in that plastic bottle, she couldn't have been as quick to distribute as she wanted to be. Now, trust me, folks, I have a Yeti that I'm using right now. It's water right inside there. But I can tell you this: how would Dana carry this around full of water and not have it spill, not have the weight of the metal weigh her down when she could have used plastic? Or what would she do? How would she afford to give everyone a different container? It's just not sensible to ban plastic water bottles. And I think we both know now that when it comes to the right thing to do, we don't like plastic water bottles, but guess what? We don't have to like them to know that we need them. And that's why we should not ban plastic water bottles. Okay, let's see where we are on time. So that was 7.5 minutes, roughly. So again, I said 5 to 10. That's what we're looking for there. Remember, you want to do more than just go through your list here. So in other words, it would not be very effective to say, let's first talk about money. It's a big industry. People will lose their jobs. They buy them. We buy them because they're convenient. Also, think about all those jobs that would be lost. It's just tons of them, and that's why we can't ban these things. Also, next, health is important. Water bottles are sanitary. We trust them because they're sealed, and they're easy to give out to people who need them in emergency situations of all kinds. So after hearing this speech, no. That is a logic-only approach. All those things make sense, but remember when we talked about the rhetorical triangle, we talked about ethos, logos, and pathos, right? We said that you need all three. So the logos is right there on the paper. That's the logical reasoning behind the argument. The pathos, the emotion, is in that delivery, right? It's the story about Harry. It's the imagine all the people losing their jobs. It's not just many people will lose their jobs. Just imagine that. It's bringing up Flint. It's talking about hurricane relief, tornado relief, you name it. That's the pathos. And then the ethos is more subtle, but I'm not an expert on water bottles, the environment, health, or the economy. But I was able to say things like, you and I both know that this is the right thing to do. Again, it's sort of in other, like when I was down south, we call that the Southern lawyer approach, where they'll say, I may not know everything there is to know about the law, Your Honor, but I do know right from wrong. And I can tell you that if this man's convicted, that's just the wrong thing. Public audiences connect with that very strongly. And so I want you to remember that this is practice for really applying it or convincing a larger group. So go back, review the persuasion information. Think about going after everyone's logical senses, their emotional sense, and their idea that you need to be credible and relatable. So as you go through this, remember, all the information is up on Blackboard. You see it here. You've got your resolutions listed, you've got your partner listed. So once they post their video and you want to respond to it, you'll see their name there. Use this outline. It's a good way to keep everything on track. And don't forget to go back and look at your stock issues and what those might be. Where do we put that? Right back here. Here we go. So, with that in mind, if you have questions, as always, let me know. I'm around. Email me and we'll take it from there. But do your best with this. Try to model a little bit of what you just saw, and I will talk to you soon. All right, have a good week.